Hey, what's up, everybody? Another great episode of Fourth Person Point of View, baby. And today's episode, if you've been following the news, you know that Trump's always got some shit going. But Trump is taking shots at Harvard University. Trump is saying that, well, he's not saying, Trump has frozen a lot of Harvard's federal funding. Now, we all know that this is for political purposes, and there's always a political agenda. But from a fourth person perspective, we're going to look at it a little bit different, and I'm going to show y'all how y'all should be responding, because it is our tax dollars, mine and yours. But first, let's listen to this right here. Okay, this is on YouTube. It's Democracy Now! You can type Trump versus academic freedom. President escalates attacks on Harvard and international students. Now, I suggest you watch this. It's a 15-minute video, but we're only going to listen to Trump's part.
And Harvard for accepting so many international students, and we're not handing over detailed personal information about them.
Part of the problem with Harvard is that there are about 31%, almost 31% of foreigners coming to Harvard. We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there because you have 31% foreign. Now, no foreign government contributes money to Harvard. We do. So why are they doing so many? Number one. Number two, we want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay. Many will be okay, I assume. And I assume with Harvard, many will be bad. And then the other thing is they're very anti-Semitic.
Okay, you heard Trump. And at the end, he put that anti-Semitic shit on the end. Now, if you go to whitehouse.org, whitehouse.gov, and you type Harvard in, you can see there's a little short video on here. So this was published on April the 16th. Part of my light here is very bright. Them LED bulbs. It says Harvard has been the epitome of this failure. Published April 16, 2025. Let's check this out. Here's a short video. This is Representative Elise Stefanik. Schools are not entitled to U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Schools are not entitled to U.S. taxpayer dollars if they're not living up to the standards and not protecting civil rights of Jewish students on campus.
That's probably.
And let's take a step back to what has led to this earthquake within higher education. After October 7th, we saw a skyrocketing of anti-Semitism on college campuses, particularly our known most elite college campuses, whether it was Harvard or Columbia. You saw physical assaults against Jewish students. You saw takeover of classroom. You saw riots of property at school, destruction. And then you didn't see enforcement of these universities against those who violated the rules, violated the standards of the university. These schools get billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer funds. We have a responsibility to be good stewards to make sure that they are protecting Jewish students, and they've...
So that's on whitehouse.gov. That's a minute and 17 seconds. That was like 43 seconds of it. Just go to whitehouse.gov and type in Harvard. You can get that. So she told you two things that we knew. They get billions of dollars, but also this is a political agenda on behalf of somebody that's Jewish, right? And based on what I've been researching and seeing on the news and some of the people I follow, some of the donors, probably the Jewish lady that gave Trump like $100 million or something, and a few other people, probably that Israel lobby. But some of those people are not happy that some of the Free Palestine protesters at Harvard were allowed to graduate. So what I believe is happening is they feel like they should be a little bit harsher, or as she said, enforce policy saying they are not entitled to freedom of speech. Now, some of the protesters are American students who are Palestinian, and some are foreigners. Now, from a fourth person perspective, I'm going to tell you what you should be looking at. You heard the lady say this is U.S. tax dollars. I pay taxes, you pay taxes, right? Now, according to Trump, Harvard has an endowment of $50 billion. All universities have some type of endowment. Now, a lot of colleges have small endowments, like Grambling State University, a lot of your historically black colleges. Now, I went to a junior college, then transferred to Grambling State, got a bachelor's degree. Then I got a master's degree from University of Texas, Dallas. So I'm well-rounded, you know, and since I've been paying attention to this, I've been looking up different endowments online, and most of your historically black colleges have a very, very small endowment. Howard University is one of the few, maybe the only HBCU that finally has a $1 billion endowment, and it took a long time to get there. Now, part of the reason Howard has that $1 billion endowment is because Howard University has a medical school, and they had a vice president that was Howard alumni, and a few other political figures and people have been Howard alumni, and Howard happens to be in the perfect place where they get the coverage, I can say. They get the coverage they need from the right people. Now, what you should be doing if you went to a historically black college especially, or to a smaller school that does not get a lot of funding, you should be writing your congressman saying, hey, pass the biscuits, bitch. Why is Harvard getting all that damn money? Let's look and see if we can find out exactly how much money Harvard is getting. We know it's billions, but let's see if we can get an exact number. How much does, okay. According to AI, it said in 2024, Harvard received $1 billion in research funding from federal foundation and industry sponsors, including $526 million directly from the university itself. Additionally, Harvard's endowment, which is a significant source of revenue, distributed $2.4 billion in the fiscal year ending June 3rd, 2024. The university also receives revenue from education, including tuition and housing. Now, you just heard Donald Trump say 30-some% of Harvard students are foreign. He's not lying. I double checked it. The figures I got online was 27.7%, so we'll say right at 30. And you heard Trump say you got students in America that would like to go to Harvard too. That's probably true. So I went further and looked at some stuff, and seemed like India is one of the, India sends the most students to the United States. Around 140,000 students every year come from India. And they don't just go to Harvard, they go to a lot of schools over here. But from a political perspective, that's kind of like a detriment to the American economy, because these Indians come over here and they go to college at Harvard or wherever. And a lot of times they put your ass out of a job. So you're creating your own competition. Now, Harvard is not the only university that receives money from the federal government. So basically what they're saying is that the federal government gives a lot of money to certain universities to conduct research on behalf of the government. Now, I say pass the biscuits, bitch, and hey, circulate this money. Now, somebody's going to argue and say the reason Harvard gets this money is because they have the infrastructure. If you go outside and look at your highways, the roads, that's called infrastructure. When those roads are beat up with potholes and broke up and shit, what happens? The city or the state has money allocated. They send a road crew out. The road crew they recycle the asphalt. You see them on the side of the road, they lift the asphalt up that's there. They remove it. They found a way to recycle it. Trust me, I know this. And they put a new road down. So the infrastructure is already there. They're just kind of up. They just kind of keeping it up, if that makes sense. Now, people say Harvard has the infrastructure. Shit. If Dr. Fauci went to Grambling State or Howard University, Alcorn, Southern, TSU, he could build the infrastructure. See where I'm going with this? Harvard's been getting money. All of Harvard's money from the government dates back to World War II. It had to start somewhere. So if Dr. Fauci went to another university, which I'm not saying Dr. Fauci works at Harvard, but he is like a well-known doctor. So if Dr. Fauci said he wanted to go to Grambling State or Howard or Alcorn, Mississippi Valley, wherever, Tuskegee, Spelman, Morehouse, if he wanted to go to one of these colleges as the lead researcher, doctor, professor, and he got a damn federal grant for, say, a $500 million, that university from that point on is laying the infrastructure. Because most of these damn colleges are no different than other colleges. Like I've had several professors who went to Harvard, and they're no smarter than nobody else. I've had homeboys that went to Harvard, Yale. All universities are nothing but an extension of the high school experience. That's all. So just like you come from a high school and everybody in your senior class, they disperse and they go out there to all the schools in the country. Well, that's the only difference. And some people in your class, you might feel like they were smart. Some people that are smart don't go to college. That's why I'm saying take this damn federal spending and disperse this shit amongst everybody. This is an academic revolution, people. That's what it is. It's an academic revolution. It's not every day that Harvard gets poked. It's not every day that somebody calls Harvard out. This right here rattles the cage and lets you know that the reason Harvard is because they get so much damn funding. If you give the average university in America funding for 5 to 10 consecutive years, that damn institution will slowly become what Harvard is today. Seriously. Which is why you should be writing your congressman saying, hey, we demand that you disperse this federal funding. How would you say it? Equal shit. That's it. Amongst all universities, especially historically black colleges. This is the perfect time. It's the perfect time because it's kind of a political war going on in the White House between Harvard and the Trump administration. You don't know what Trump might do. He's actually talking about freezing $2.2 billion. And if you can freeze this money, I'm sure that the money can be given to other institutions. Because I read an article also on CNBC where they said Trump said he ought to give it to a trade or vocational school. And some of the people were saying, is that legal? Some said it was, some said it wasn't. At the end of the day, it's federal tax dollars. It's our tax dollars. And you should not be comfortable with your tax dollars funding a university with 30% foreign students. Because those same foreign students come here and they put your ass out of a job, especially a tech job. You never thought about that, have you? Those same students will put your ass out of a job. Now, somebody might argue and say that the people from India who come to America are paying to go to Harvard. You're a damn lie. You're not telling me a goddamn person from India who's poor with Indian currency is all of a sudden coming to America and they can afford a Harvard education. Maybe some can, but I looked online. It said a lot of Harvard students get scholarships and financial aid. Once again, which lets you know that like these students at Harvard are not necessarily wealthy people. And all the people I know that went to Harvard were not wealthy either. Shit, no. Everybody that goes to Yale is not wealthy by far. Once again, your tax dollars. So if you're going to use American tax dollars, why don't you use American tax dollars on American students? American students need their own damn tax dollars. So I feel like you should take full advantage of this opportunity to reach out to your congressmen and your state representatives and say, hey, shit, be fair with this money, man. Give my university some of this money. Give that junior college some of this money. Hell, give that VOTEC some of that money. It's our tax dollars. You gotta jump aboard the ship right now because it might not goddamn be an academic revolution again for another 10 to 25 and 35 years, and then your ass to be knocking on 60 years old. You're not worried about education. Something to think about. So even though, like I say, I know this is for political purposes with Trump's own agenda with probably some of his Jewish donors, but people like us, we got to take full advantage of this right here. We got to let it be known that we do not appreciate our tax dollars going to foreign students. And once you graduate from college, everybody's equal. Seriously. And if you went to Harvard Medical School, you probably are kind of like determined, driven. But Harvard's kind of like Nike. You know, Michael Jordan, Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, Tom Brady, LeBron, Steph Curry. They all wear the Nike brand, but they have a talent without Nike. So that's kind of how Harvard is. You know, Harvard is an institution. It does not make you no smarter than you are. Everybody that goes to Harvard is not going to come out no smarter. Shit, Harvard uses the same damn textbooks that the majority of the goddamn universities in America use. Trust me. I experienced that at Grambling when somebody had a debate and a guy, one of my professors, Dr. Horton, talked about it. He actually went across the street, well, had a student to go across the street, and he got a professor, and he asked him where did he go to school. He went to Grambling undergrad and got his PhD at Harvard. And Dr. What I just called his name, psychology professor Horton. And Dr. Horton asked him, he said, what book are they using in Harvard? And he said, the same one y'all using here. Now, I had a homeboy who went to Harvard. He was trying to be a doctor from Shreveport, Louisiana. And he transferred from LSU and he went to Harvard. And I asked him, how was it going to school at Harvard? And he told me, shit, Harvard is kind of dummy proof from a certain perspective. And what he meant, he said every class he went to, the class was recorded. He said, so if you missed notes or something, you could always go back and watch that class later on. So he said the resources are there. So they have the best technology. And you get all these damn grants from the government, of course you're going to have the best technology. And then he told me something that makes a lot of sense. He said the textbooks that a lot of people use at Harvard, sometimes the professor of that class is the author of that textbook. And that's confirmed because one of my professors at University of Texas at Dallas, he went to Harvard. And I asked him what made Harvard Harvard. And he told me something similar. And what he added was he said that Harvard has a very different selection process when it comes to professors. And I asked him what he meant. He said they cast a wider net. He said what they do is you don't have to be a Harvard alumni to be a professor at Harvard. He said what they do is go out there and try to find the best professor in every area to come back and teach the students. So if Michael Jordan wanted to be a college coach, Harvard would go to him and say, hey, Jordan, we know you didn't go to Harvard, but we want you to coach our basketball and we'll make it worth your while. You see where I'm going with this? If Donald Trump, who's the current president, if he wanted to be a professor, if he lines up with everything Harvard wants, they will let Trump be a professor at Harvard because he's been a president. So they would take the textbook perspective and let Trump bring his real world presidential experience and teach their students to kind of like give them firsthand experience. So that's what makes Harvard Harvard. And Harvard's a good university. I'm not trying to downplay it by far. But what I am saying, and I want y'all to listen to me, when you give people billions of dollars year after year, and they have a $50+ million endowment, all those damn resources and tools, that university is supposed to be superior. So if you give those same resources to these other colleges, especially your historically black colleges, they can start building too, and the infrastructure can be laid. It's hard to build infrastructure if you don't never goddamn make the initial investment. Like I just told you about the highway. The highway is infrastructure. The infrastructure is laid already. And all you got to do is come back and do your routine maintenance every 8 to 15 years, depending on the factors like the soil, depending on what type of traffic, what type of automobiles people are driving. Are they trucks? Are they SUVs? Are they cars? Do you have a lot of 18-wheelers? Do you have a lot of farm equipment on the highway? So that same thing applies to any type of infrastructure, which is why I made this video. Take advantage of the opportunity, people, especially if y'all went to a HBCU. Write your congressman and tell them, I agree with what President Trump is saying. Our tax dollars do not deserve to go to support foreign students. Because the 30% of Harvard students who are foreign, shit, that could be 30% of American students getting an opportunity of a lifetime. So write your congressman, tell them, hey, give these HBCUs a little bit of that damn federal funding. I mean, $1 or $2 billion, you got it to go around. You can give every HBCU a fraction of that right there, and it will launch them into the future. Definitely, with no problem. Like, it would definitely take their goddamn institution and start it on a forward trajectory. So that's all I got to say about that, man. I had something else I wanted to say. Hold on, bear with me here. That's not something there. Okay, I can add that. It said Harvard, I think I gave the percentage, but it says over 140 countries. Harvard has students from over 140 countries. Think about it. And some of you knuckleheads who like Python and all that IT shit, you bring these people from these 140 countries and they put your ass out of a job. And then once they put that Harvard on the resume, I mean, Harvard does have a reputation. Not saying they're no smarter than you, but they do have a reputation. I mean, they get federal funding in the billions. They have a $50 billion endowment. So that foreign motherfucker just came over here and put you out of business. Hey, don't shoot the messenger, baby. But I wanted to share that. So please, write your congressman and tell them, hey, I agree with what Donald Trump's saying. You got all that federal funding. How about you share it with some of the HBCUs and put a number on there? You know, say, hey, how about you give my HBCU $500 million, but we'll settle for $200 million. You know how to do this. But this has been Fourth Person Point of View, baby. I'm out.